Howdy, race fans. Welcome to my little show about racing I like to call In the Pits with me, StockCar Scott. Each Wednesday here on the YouTube during racing season when I feel like it. This week racing started on Thursday evening with a tape delay K&N Pro East race and live Formula One practice for the season debut in Melbourne, Australia. First up was the second race of the K&N East season on NBCSN. Somehow I missed the first race of theirs there at New Smyrna, Florida during Speed Weeks and all that late model racing. And that one was won by David Gilliland's son, Todd. The race shown Thursday was run after a rain delay a few weeks ago at Mobile International Speedway, just a few miles southwest of that famous old Alabama port city and a little north of Bayou La Batre, Alabama, fictional home of Bubba Blue and Bubba Gump Shrimp. Bubba Gump Shrimp, it's a household name. It was an interesting race on a sweet little half-mile track, won by a 15-year-old Tyler Dipple of Wallkill, New York, in only his second K&N East start in his number 38 Chevrolet SS. Second place went to pole winner Spencer Davis, whose name evokes the 60s hit rock song "Gimme Some Lovin'" on the soundtrack of two of my favorite racing movies. Excuse me, folks. Sorry. Anyway, third was I'm sorry. Anyway, so third was Spokane native Chad Little's son, Jesse, there at Mobile International Speedway in Sweet Home, Alabama. Later, also on NBCSN, were two practice sessions for the Melbourne, Australia F1 race. My favorite, defending F1 champion Lewis Hamilton, was fastest in both practices. In all sorts of changing weather conditions during those practices. But it was fun to see two United States Haas F1 cars on a Grand Prix track for the first time in 3 decades, race fans. Friday was practice and qualifying again for Sprint Cup at California's Auto Club Speedway, along with some Xfinity Series practice. And again, only 39 Sprint Cup cars were entered for the last stop of the West Coast swing. Hopefully there will be full fields back east. You know, I never thought I would be talking about low car counts at Cup races. But that's a problem for local tracks, not the premier national stock car racing series. So we'll have to see what's going on with that. After 3 rounds of qualifying, the number 3 RCR Chevrolet of Austin Dillon was quickest of this week's 39 entries. It was his second career pole and just his first pole since the Daytona 500 in his rookie debut. Unfortunately, Dale Jr. failed to qualify the Hendricks Batman Nationwide Chevrolet SS out of first round again this week. That's why I got on my Batman shirt, because he raced the Batman car this weekend. And why I've got superhero diecast around me. You might have noticed Superman, Dale Jr. Superman, Dale Jr. Batman, Greg Biffle the Flash, and the Justice League of America there. And I don't know if you can see them or not. Got some 164th Batman and Superman diecast hanging up here. But, my favorite superhero car that I got, my favorite superheroes, Powerpuff Girls, yeah. But anyway, back to qualifying. Happy Harvick, my younger brother's favorite, put that Jimmy John Stewart Haas Racing number 4 Chevrolet on the outside of the front row, along with his old boss's grandson there. And second round, my old Virginia buddy there, Nick, his favorite driver, little Denny Hamlin, set a new track record, but wound up in third in final round, foreshadowing his Sunday finish. Later Friday night was the new version of F1 elimination qualifying in Melbourne, Australia. Now, last year, years before, they already had 3 rounds of knockout qualifying, and that was very exciting. But Friday, they added an elimination clock that removed a slow car every minute and a half during qualifying there. Basically, what it did was slap the slow teams in the face with the reality sooner that they didn't have the car. But it also made it a lot less interesting to watch because it took cars off the track. And race fans, that's why we watch racing, is to see cars on the track. That's why we watch qualifying, cars on the track. That's why we watch practice, cars on the track. So this version of qualifying was brutal. Many of the drivers ended up sitting in the pits because there just wasn't enough time for them to make a second attempt. Not a whole lot of excitement in that. And because of these unintended consequences, thankfully, the elimination clock has mercifully been relegated to the scrap heap of really bad ideas. Strangely enough, the results were not greatly dissimilar to most of last year, with Mercedes locking out the front row, with Lewis Hamilton on the pole, with his teammate, what's his name, Rosberg, in second. Ferrari was again lined up in the second row with Sebastian Vettel third and Kimi Raikkonen in fourth starting positions. By the way, it was Lewis Hamilton's 50th career pole. That puts him third on the pole list behind Senna and Michael Schumacher. But I tell you, that was the worst thing I ever saw in terms of unintended consequences, with no cars on the track during the last full 3 minutes of qualifying. You know, if I'd bought a ticket, I'd have been really mad, folks. Oh, the U.S. Haas team wound up back in the next to the last row, even though they felt they could have done better given more time. Back in the next to the last row for their first Grand Prix for the United States in 30 years. Now, Saturday started similarly to the past few Saturdays, with the Joe Gibbs Racing 1-2-3 in qualifying for the Xfinity race at Auto Club Speedway. But this week, the young Mexican driver Daniel Suarez, in his first for his first Xfinity Series pole. Phenom Eric Jones qualified second, and the Toad was third. But within a few laps, the Toad was to the front, leading in the number 18 NAS E-Ating Camry with the number 42 Kyle Larson in tow. Looked like it might have been the Kyle and Kyle show, but it didn't quite happen that way. My favorite for the day, Kevin Harvick, driving the number 88 Nally Chili Junior Motorsports Camaro, had problems during the first stop on pit lane that seemed insurmountable. Then the Toad returned to the front to get the stink on. Young Ryan Blaney challenged the Toad for the lead late in the 300-mile contest, but got crashed into the wall by the Toad's teammate, Yep, by the Toad's teammate, phenom Eric Jones, and Blaney faded off the lead lap with a damaged number 22 discount tired Mustang. Mission completed. Jones fell in behind the leader with Suarez third, but it didn't end that way. With everyone low on gas, the Toad pulled a Lightning McQueen and blew a tire, his left front on the next to the last lap, but kept racing, so NASCAR didn't throw the yellow flag. Daniel Suarez caught the Toad, but ran out of fuel, as had phenom Eric Jones a lap or so earlier. So, the Toad, in a shower of sparks, passed the empty Suarez in the backstretch, but then was passed in the final turn by Austin Dillon in the number 2 Ream Camaro, who was squeezed up into the safer barrier by the Toad, but still got by the number 18 Camry to win in Southern California. It was great. Even though the Toad finished second, Suarez coasted to a third place finish, which means he continues to lead the points going into the Easter break. Junior Motorsports, Elliott Sadler in the number 1 main 1 Camaro is now second in points. My favorite Alabama Xfinity driver, Darrell Bubba Wallace, had his best career Xfinity finish ever Saturday with a third place finish in his number 6 Roush Ford Mustang. It was nice. It was nice that the Joe Gibbs Racing stranglehold on the Xfinity Series was broken, at least for this past weekend. Their next race, that is the Xfinity Series, is a couple of weeks away on the second Friday of April at Texas Motor Speedway. Let's see, let me get me another drink. After that race, I did some laundry and watched practice and qualifying at Tucson Raceway on fanschoice.tv while waiting on the Seattle Sounders match. Because I kind of like soccer nowadays. Anyway, fanschoice.tv eventually started to do that buffering thing badly enough to be unwatchable. And the Sounders got beat by Vancouver and the officials in a match that also became unwatchable. At 9 p.m., the F1 season started and saved my Saturday night. The Australian Grand Prix was a slam-bang, excitement-filled race right from the start. Sebastian Vettel got a great start, jumping past the 2 Mercedes before the first turn, bringing his Ferrari teammate Kimi Räikkönen with him while leaving Hamilton and Rosberg wondering what happened. Rosberg was able to stay in touch with the Ferraris, but defending F1 champion Hamilton slipped back to 6th. About a third of the way into the race, there was a scary and spectacular crash involving McLaren Honda driver, former champion Fernando Alonso, and Haas driver Esteban Gutierrez. The wreck brought out a red flag, and thankfully both drivers walked away. From there, it was a great race, though. Kimi Räikkönen, you'd have to convince him of that, because his Ferrari blew up pretty dramatically there about a few more laps into the race. His teammate, Vettel, came back from a really bad pit stop with a bad tire change during his last pit stop, but still ended up third behind Hamilton, who had been able to work his way back from his bad start. And winner of the Australian Grand Prix again this year, what's his name? Rosberg. There were many entertaining battles throughout the 22-car field for a lot of really great racing, folks. Best of all, though, the best of all was seeing Romain Grosjean, a French driver, driving that remaining Haas automation car to a sixth-place finish in the United States team debut, earning 8 F1 championship points. There have been many other F1 teams over the years that have come and gone and spent millions and millions of dollars and never scored that many points all together. So yeah, USA, 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 USA. And it was great getting to see it all on Saturday night. While watching the F1 race, I followed, local stuff online, and I read that local favorite Parker Stevens from Olympia finished 12th in Irwindale, California, in his first K&N Pro Series start. Way to go, Parker, and way to make the 12s happy. I have an old video of after the Miller 200 a few years ago that I shot in the pits, an interview with Parker Stevens, and it's posted there on my YouTube channel. And you may want to check it out so you can see what a really good kid this aspiring NASCAR driver is. I hope he goes far. He was nice to me then, and I'll never forget it. Oh yeah, and the winner of the race was Todd Gilliland, and we can see that race at 7 a.m. on NBC SN this coming Friday morning, 7 a.m. Sunday morning was nice, being the last leg of the West Coast swing. I did not have to get myself up too early to catch the Auto Club 400 at Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, California. That afternoon, Austin Dillon started the 200-lap race on the front row alongside of Kevin Harvick, who led the first and most laps on Sunday. Of course, my attention was on that number 88 Batman Chevy that started back in the high 20s and wallowed back there most of the race. Jimmy Johnson in the Lowe's number 48 Superman Chevrolet, on the other hand, ran like Clark Kent's alter ego. He was able to outrace Happy Harvick, who had dominated the day, and during the last restart after the Toad found the wall with another flat tire again late in the race. So Johnson was able to pick up his 77th Sprint Cup victory, and Harvick had to be happy with second. My oldest brother's favorite, young Hendricks rookie driver Chase Elliott, finished sixth, best of the rookies. Dale Jr. worked all day for a respectable 11th place in that Batman Chevrolet, while my wife's favorite, Greg Biffle, had engine problems and was relegated to a 37th place finish. Local favorite Casey Kane finished 28th after a controversial run-in with Danica Patrick and a trip to the NASCAR office. The next race is in a couple of weeks at NASCAR's shortest and oldest track in Martinsville, Virginia. The Camping World Trucks return there as the companion race that Saturday after having the past few weekends off. The same weekend as Martinsville is opening weekend for racing around here, with events scheduled for South Sound Speedway and Evergreen Speedway. The same weekend, the first weekend there of April, also has open wheel racing with IRL Saturday night at Phoenix and F1 at Bahrain early Sunday morning, both on NBC SN. But if I don't lose my voice until then, nothing. Yep, no live racing this weekend, so I won't be doing the show in the pits with me, StockCar Scott, next Wednesday, because I really don't have anything to talk about. Give my voice a rest there. So instead of doing a show of feel, I will just take that time to get ready for the coming action-packed season up here in the great Northwest. And speaking of the coming action-packed season here in the great Northwest, there are still a few season passes available for the Twisted Tea Better All Auto Sales West Coast Late Model Series 9-point race schedule at 3 area racetracks with the Fall Classic bonus weekend thrown in there. So you need to get on this great deal before they are all gone. Only $100 for this season pass. 10 races. That's great. Great deal, folks. So visit their page there at westcoastlatemodels.org for details. Also, while you're there, check out the fashionable West Coast Late Model Series apparel, including caps, t-shirts, and hoodies for those chilly nights in the pits after the 100-lap feature. So again, no show next week, but I will be back in April with local racing news and other racing news from a local perspective, because hey, that's what I do when I feel like it here on In the Pits with me, StockCar Scott. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to catch tomorrow's Throwback Thursday episode of the Waterboy Sports Show on my YouTube channel. And thanks again for watching, folks. See you in April at the track.